Hi, I'm Reed Holson. Welcome to Sioux Falls Directions, where we sit down and have conversations with our Sioux Falls directors of the 12 city departments of the City of Sioux Falls. And this time around, we're going to talk to Dave Pfeifle, who's the director and city attorney for the City of Sioux Falls in the city attorney's office. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you, Reed. Thank you for having me today.
It's good to have you back. So let's talk about the city attorney's office. It truly is a department, but unlike other city departments, it's called the city attorney's office. So tell us who you serve, how many employees you have, and the background of the office.
Sure. Our office was started in about 1987. Before that time, the city had outside counsel that they would contract with, and they would do legal work on behalf of the city. However, in about 1987, Roger Schauger became the first city attorney for the City of Sioux Falls. And over time, our office has grown to 15 employees. 8 of us are attorneys, and we serve both the 11 other city departments, all the elected officials, the mayor and the city council, as well as we have 42 different citizen boards that we serve as their legal advisor as well.
So there's a lot going on, and the interesting thing that the citizens are always asking about is that you not only serve the mayor's office in the city hall, but you also serve city council as well.
Correct. Legally, what the law calls it is they're our client constituents. Ultimately, our client is the city government itself. So for our office, we keep in mind the larger goal. The big picture is what is in the best interests of the city government as a whole. And certainly there are times when the mayor and city council can be in disagreement over a certain issue or two, but I think the citizens need to remember there's about 2,500 items on the city council agenda in any given year. Of those items, maybe a dozen generate any real tangible disagreement between the mayor's office and the city council office. So in those instances, we just give the advice according to the law, and we certainly let the elected officials decide what the policy would be for the city.
And as with the other 11 city directors, you are appointed by the mayor.
Correct. I am appointed by the mayor, and I serve a 4-year term each time I get an appointment.
And then your appointment by the mayor also with the advice and consent of the city council as well.
Yes, correct.
And that's how the process works with the mayor's.
Yes, and then the voters actually brought in a new charter amendment a couple years ago where the mayor could not terminate my employment without council approval. I think in essence that was an attempt to make me more like a civil service employee that enjoyed a bit more protection so that I couldn't be terminated because one elected official didn't like my piece of advice on one particular issue. And again, Reed, that's never governed the way any of our attorneys handle our affairs with the city. We always do it with integrity in terms of what the law requires. We tell the officials what they need to do, and then they are off running in terms of how to implement.
So truly you're in a way consulting with the law, and the elected officials in city departments have to make decisions on how to apply things.
Correct. Again, it's fidelity to the law for our department, but again, there are occasions where the law is going to be gray. If it were that black and white, you'd never need lawyers. But again, most of the time it's usually black and white in terms of what we need to do, and we advise accordingly.
So as you sit at the city council, a lot of us have wondered, how do you know everything to be able to answer questions in the heat of the moment when city council meetings are going on?
Don't let the secret out, but I do not know everything. I've been devoting the last 28 years of my life to government work and also or practicing law. And over that time, you can't help, even as a Norwegian, picking up some pieces of information along the way, learning from others. I mean, I've been very fortunate over these almost 3 decades. I've had some wonderful mentors. I'd love to name them all and publicly thank them, but they know who they are, and I really appreciate all the help and assistance, and more than anything, patience they've had with me in my younger days as I was learning how to practice law and work for the government. But again, you get an agenda comes out ahead of time, and that certainly gives the public prior notice of what's going to be on the council agenda. For me, it gives me a chance to, are there some items that I may have some questions on that I may need to research in advance? And certainly that's a big part of my job is making sure that everything on that agenda has been vetted through our legal office, that we're comfortable with what's being proposed. If there's some items I may need to do my own research on, I'm certainly doing those and trying to prepare as much as possible before the meeting so that at the meeting it gives the appearance like I automatically know everything. Honestly, I don't.
How about the order of the city council meeting and Robert's Rule of Order and just the running of the meeting? You kind of oversee that as well too, don't you, and rule on that?
I do. I've read about 530 pages of the Robert's Rules of Orders. It's not something I would recommend for anyone at home. It's a good sleep aid if you need it. Essentially, the city follows a few basic items from Roberts, and that's covers probably 99% of anything at a meeting. And then the other part is also governed. The city council has adopted a few ordinances on procedures, such as the public, under Robert's Rules of Order, would not have any right to provide any input, but certainly the elected officials have ensured for many years that the members of the public can come in and give both general public input at the beginning of a council meeting and also provide public input for any second reading of an ordinance and also any resolution before the council.
So Dave, you said you've worked in all different levels of government. So how is local government, municipal government, different from state and federal government?
Yes, Reed, I have worked both for the federal government and state government, and it's been an honor to serve the city government. I'm a third generation Sioux Falls resident, so it was a real thrill to be able to accept this position on behalf of the city government. In terms of the difference, I would say the farther removed you are from your constituency, be it going up to the state level or to the federal level, you're farther removed from the daily needs of your citizens. And it's just, I've found over the years that the local governments are best able to sense what the needs of their citizens are and best able to respond in a more timely manner to what those needs might be. And again, you can imagine I'm probably a major proponent of local control as much as possible, and I've seen certainly the last 7 years I've been with the city that local control really has a lot of benefits.
And we've grown exponentially, and you're a graduate of Sioux Falls Lincoln, is that correct?
Yes, proud patriot.
Right, proud patriot, and since you graduated high school, we've grown so incredibly so. In fact, we're adding close to 5,000 residents a year on average. So what challenges has that given your office and your department and the city as a whole, this kind of population growth?
Well, again, when I was graduating from high school from Lincoln in 1987, I bet our population was in the 80-some thousands. Now it's 180,000, and that does create a lot of opportunities and challenges for city government. We have 5,000 new people a year that need additional services from the city. That can be anything from police, fire protection. It can be more cars on the road and how to plan for that for the engineering team to, in terms of our office, we certainly deal more than anyone with the diversity and the growing diversity within our community. We have about 157 languages spoken in our community, and about 10% of the households speak a language other than English as their first language. So it creates a lot of challenges and opportunities in terms of how to effectively help people assimilate into our community, show them where the services are, show them what their rights are. We have a very active human relations team, Reed, that goes out, gives fair housing seminars, gives seminars on what people's rights are, what the anti-discrimination laws are, et cetera. And as we have a growing melting pot of people here in our community, certainly those laws may be more in play.
All right. Dave Pfeifle is our city attorney with the City of Sioux Falls. We'll take a short break here and we'll get into more detail about what each of the areas his office serves you here in the City of Sioux Falls when we come back here on Sioux Falls Directions.
Would you drive at 60 miles per hour the length of a football field while blindfolded? Have you driven at 60 miles per hour and checked a text message?
If you said yes to the second question, then you're guilty of the first question too. By taking just a few moments to look at your phone to see who's calling while traveling 60 miles an hour, you will cover more than 100 yards while looking at your phone.
Save a life.
Save it for later.
Brought to you by the City of Sioux Falls.
Welcome back to Sioux Falls Directions. Our guest is City Attorney Dave Pfeifle of the City Attorney's Office in the City of Sioux Falls. And Dave, we've been talking about how much the city has grown and the services your office provides. You've got 8 attorneys under your direction here at the City of Sioux Falls. And let's talk about each of the areas that those attorneys work in and the services they provide.
Certainly. We serve the 11 different city departments beyond our own. And as a whole, I would just at a macro level read, there's probably about 3,500 documents that we review for legal reasons in any given year. We're also monitoring probably 500 different bills before the state legislature in any given year. countless amounts of federal legislation that may affect the city. Each attorney is getting probably 50 to 80 emails per day internally from our different client base in terms of questions. How do we do this? How do we do that? To remain legal. And we also receive probably 40 to 50 calls from outside of the government, all hosts of questions in terms of city court questions, state court questions, et cetera. And I just would remind the viewers that we do not provide legal advice to private individuals. We serve the city government and provide them legal advice. And if you need some private legal advice, we have people even calling, wanting help on a divorce or something of that nature, and we need to remind them, no, you need to find someone other than us. We're taxpayer paid, and we have to do what's best for the entire public, and we can't serve private individuals.
And I'm sure you get a lot of phone calls at the
Yes, we
office, from citizens that are looking for direction, not only the city attorney's office, but where to find other things across the city of Sioux Falls.
Yes, and we have staff that handle those phone calls, and they know every possible resource there is. And you would find that with other, certainly public sector law firms, as I would call them as well. We know where to steer people, et cetera. But again, with the internet, certainly that's broadened the base of knowledge for people, and our city website gets 1.5 million sessions per year with citizens looking for information. So I think in the information age, it's totally changed the landscape, where now people are looking online more so. But again, our office is still probably 40 to 50 calls per day.
And one comprehensive area too, where a lot of people use your services, is the human relations area of the city attorney's office.
Yes, that would be the one area where we're probably doing a lot of direct benefit to the citizens. So the rest of what we're doing is, I would call, more of an indirect benefit, where we're serving the 11 departments who are serving the citizens directly. But for the Human Relations Department, and that includes our latest attorney is Ryan Sage, who came from the State's Attorney's Office here in Minnehaha County, and then also Colleen Moran. She's been with us for 6 years, and they both serve different discrimination complaint needs. Colleen has now switched more exclusively to the Americans with Disability Act, the disabled type complaints. And then Ryan is serving the other areas in terms of employment and places of public accommodation. And our office has also taken on fair housing discrimination complaints, and that can include a number of different things. And our office proactively goes out, gives fair housing seminars both to landlords and to tenants or potential tenants, and tells them what their rights are. So we're hoping that with all this education and information and outreach that we're performing, we can minimize the number of problems that our community may experience.
And they do a great job with public education, but if I've got a concern specifically for myself, do I call your office? Do I come in and see Colleen and Ryan?
You can do either way. It's the phone number is 367-8745 would be the Human Relations number, or you can see them on the first floor of City Hall.
In a lot of areas too that people may not realize that you deal with traffic citations.
Yes.
At the city attorney's office, right?
But yes, we prosecute the city traffic violations, and that can be about 1,500 per year. Of those, probably 600 or so may go to city court, as we call it. That's a trial in front of a magistrate judge. So on any given week, we will have an assistant city attorney handling probably 10 to 12 trials per week.
So there's a traffic court that you're involved in. Does that happen at City Hall?
That happens over at the Minnehaha County Courthouse, and that is what we call euphemistically city court, I guess is what everyone calls it, but it's magistrate court division.
Has that historically always been the case, that the city has handled
Actually, in about 1978, the unified judicial system within the state of South Dakota happened, and the state consumed up the entire gamut of levels of courts. Before that, the cities had actually their own judiciary, and we had our own city court, which happened right in City Hall up until about the late 70s.
That's true. There were courtrooms, actual courtrooms in City Hall.
Yes.
From what I remember, the history of the building.
And we even had a jail within the basement of City Hall, where on any given day they could have 2 or 3 people down there. It would be a very short stay of a matter of hours until they were shown up the elevator and appeared before the city court judge.
That's a whole other City Link show, the history of that City Hall building.
It's been fun to give students tours of those and explain to them where a jail used to be, and the elevator where the prisoners would ride, and it's fun to watch their eyes just open up, and they just can't believe that used to happen. But now it's all at the Minnehaha County Courthouse.
Gotcha. Code enforcement is another big area of what you do every day.
Yes, and we have Paul Bangford, who's an assistant city attorney. He handles all those types of cases for us. On average, the city receives about 7,000 complaints per year on potential code violations, and those are all citizen-driven complaints. We're not out driving around looking for items. They are simply coming to us. To our credit, I think as a city, about 90% of them voluntarily comply once they're informed that you're in violation of some code. And these codes aren't just established by the city and adopted by the city council, on a whim. They are very important in terms of public safety and welfare, and they're very simple to understand once you think through it. I mean, like, people have a bunch of spare tires in their yard, and they think, well, what's the harm of that? Well, the bottom part of the tire can actually act as a reservoir for breeding of mosquitoes and all the problems that mosquitoes can create. So our mosquito spraying efforts are completely undermined in that yard, in that area, because you continue to generate additional eggs for the mosquitoes to hatch. Abandoned vehicles, or outdoor furniture placed outside that may have some fabric to it, breeding grounds for all types of varmints, including rats, and we certainly don't want any of that in our neighborhoods and all the diseases that those types of varmints may carry. So again, these codes have some very specific and good reasons for why they're there. In terms of the 90% that comply, that again speaks highly of our community. The 10% that don't, we prosecute probably about 200 cases per year, where we go either to magistrate court or to circuit court, depending on the situation, and hope that with some court assistance that folks will come around, realize the importance of why the code should be followed, and comply with it.
Citizen boards, as you mentioned earlier, are a big part of how the city runs and gets input from our citizens. Now, what's your role in overseeing or interacting with those 42 boards that you mentioned earlier?
A lot of the 42 boards have their own city staff liaison, and what we more do is interact with the liaison from the city government. So we ensure that open meeting laws are complied with. We do trainings for city staff on what the open meeting laws mean and how to comply with them. And we have probably over 450 citizens serving on these 42 different boards, and it just provides, as you said, a great amount of input on how our city government is viewed by its citizens, by those being served. And it's a real honor to serve those folks as their attorney as well for city board business, and once in a while things crop up of a legal nature that we're called in to help.
Mm-hmm. As we look forward to elections here soon, there's going to be a new mayor and some councilors here in little more than a year. What does your office interact with the city clerk and so forth with elections and initiated measures? What does your office do?
You identified it correctly. We work with the city clerk. I personally handle the election law issues, and the city clerk and I certainly work in concert in terms of, are we complying with all the state election laws? For us as a municipality, we're a political subdivision of the state of South Dakota. And our city charter specifically says that we will follow the election laws of the state of South Dakota. So we're very cognizant and make a concerted effort to try and comply with every nuance of election law. And as anyone who's dealt with election law can tell you, it's about as easy and clear as mud in terms of, because it's found in so many different areas of the state code. So it takes quite a bit of work and understanding, not only reading what the printed law says, but how to apply it and how it works in practice.
Dave, thanks for taking time to talk with us.
Reed, thank you for having me.
All right, Dave Pfeifle, our city attorney for the City of Sioux Falls. If you'd like to learn more about what Dave and his department does at the city attorney's office, just go to siouxfalls.org, click on departments and city attorney's office. And if you'd like to see Dave in action at a city council meeting, just go to the city council section, click on meetings, and click on video. You can watch the city council meetings there and find all the agendas there as well too. I'm Reed Holson. Thank you for watching Sioux Falls Directions.